Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again. Our goal is just to continue to show up, create resources, share friends that have resources as well that can just help with day-to-day business, entrepreneurship, as well as this crazy time that we're in. I want to introduce you to a special guest today, Kaleigh. I met her 2 years ago at Evolve in Palm Springs, and I heard her speak, and her specialty is brand strategy. And it is a hard thing in the photographic industry, and it's probably in any industry to talk about like business things. Now, I mean, I have done a lot of education in the past, and it's like when I bring my attorney friend in, it's like an empty room, or when I bring a CPA in. Brand strategy, I believe, is super creative, but so many times it feels overwhelming. It's like, I have an Instagram. Is that enough? I am getting most of my inquiries from social. Is that enough? And a brand just feels like a big, overbearing thing. But when Kayla and I were chatting about this, it was like, it doesn't have to be. We get to like take a look at what we're doing, kind of like choose what our business is going to look like to our clients, and then we can tweak it. We can, of course, build it from the ground up, but we can just take it one piece at a time. So it was really fun just chatting with her more about this. But she has been a brand strategist for over 15 years. So she basically started when she was 9 years old doing this. But I continue to get to know her more and more. And I mean, there is a lot to this woman, and I am like so excited to share what she has for you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and really let's start with, we've been talking about like self-awareness and growth. How are you doing during this time, and how much does it matter how you show up each day?
Exactly. Obviously I'm a brand strategist. I spend most of my time on the road. So I think the biggest thing for me was literally like the halt, and the digesting that I'm not going to be going anywhere for the foreseeable future, because a lot of my identity has been associated with my day-to-day, just where I'm going next. When I'm at home, I'm operating in a way of like, okay, what's my next thing? So for me, actually, to reverse 2 years ago, so I actually was at a place, so I've had my business, obviously, doing brand stuff for 15 years. I started my stationery business in 2008. And for me, it was like all gas down. Like, for me, that's how I operated. I felt my best when I was achieving things, checking things off my list, like moving. And I got to a place where I was physically exhausted. I had health issues. I was like breaking out in a rash. I mentally didn't have the clarity. I felt capable, but it was like, the slowest, I physically felt like I was just crawling. And so, I actually have someone very close to me who attempted suicide, and I got the call at 11 p.m. And it was honestly like at 5 a.m. I was at the airport. I didn't care who my clients were. They could wait. It was not important. Like, I needed to be there for those people. I needed to be there and present for myself. And so for me, the last 2 years has really been an exploration of finding my center, finding and exploring who I am. And so, for me now that I'm in this place, without having gone through that, to really have that stripped away from me of where my identity was, I'm still having to remind myself every day what I'm grateful for, what's going to make today successful. So I think I'm feeling strong, but I think, we all are grieving. We're grieving the loss of business. We're grieving the loss of our schedules. We're grieving our own identities. Maybe you're having to be a homeschool mother now and you previously weren't. We're grieving, if that's not even the word to use. And so I think we all do need to be very aware of how we're feeling and not suppressing that in the time being. So that's one thing I'm really focusing on.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I got the chills as you were sharing that, and thank you so much. It is like we can run super fast, but so many times the hustle and all those things just makes it to where it like becomes our identity, what we do. And I think it's a huge part of what we do, especially as creatives. I love how big of a part my company is, but it's not who I am.
Yeah.
And starting to separate that and be aware of that, like with Kiss, I had health issues a lot of the time as well. I mean, we started out and it was just like well received. Photographers creating a book company, making it simple to get to the product. But we like to keep up with the demand. I got alopecia twice where I lost hair in like a couple weird spots. And the
that's
first
when
time
you
I got
know.
it,
When
yeah,
your body's fighting back, that's when you
it
know.
freaked me out. Like I'm a total optimist, and it was my hairstylist. She went to start cutting my hair, and she's like, "Just so you know, like I didn't like nick you. We hadn't started yet, but you have a bald spot." And I was like, I instantly was like, "I'm getting a bald spot? Like I'm too young for that, or whatever, you know?" So I'm reaching for where the bald spot should be. She's like, "No, it's right here." And she showed me a mirror, and my stomach dropped. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
happened? And it was like already discoloring. It was going bald, and then there was little hair in there that was like gray. It was just too young for that. For me, I knew like,
Yeah.
and so, but it was like this awareness of like, hey, this is going to kill you. You know, you love what you do, and that's totally fine. But being what you said as well is like self-aware and like
And
what really
honestly,
matters.
I'm an advocate for journaling, and anyone who
Yeah,
wants to ask about journaling, feel free to direct message me. I love
yeah.
5 Minute Journal, and I have my own journaling. But one of the main things right away I started doing when I hit that rock bottom was I started making a list of the things I was grateful for, the things that brought me identity, and left work out of it.
Mhm.
And it was painfully difficult
Yeah.
because I had realized every day when I went to write down everything and all of where I felt achievement had to do with work. And that
Mhm.
really helped me understand, okay, what are my hobbies? What do I enjoy doing when I have downtime? Like how can I actually turn off? And then 2 years later, I actually just recently had some blood work done and my cortisol levels were through the roof. And I was like, I feel fine. I feel
Yeah.
fine. And they said it literally has created permanent damage from
Wow.
my years past at working under such stressful conditions and putting that pressure on myself. And I think especially as event producers, I'm a stationer, so I'm not even there on day of, but as photographers, like you're there and a lot of your stress comes from outside factors,
That's
other
right.
people's timelines. And I think a lot of times we also put all of that stress on ourselves instead of taking a moment to identify that those
Mhm.
stressors are not something that we've created, or it's not reactive in some kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. Michelle said, so true. The hustle can become part of an identity. I certainly have struggled with that. Thanks for that comment, Michelle. And it's the thing about it is even during this time specifically, I want to be a light as much as we can. And I wake up and I have the imposter syndrome and I limit my beliefs and things like that. And cortisol is the highest in the morning. So it's the fear hormone. And so I get on the bike as soon as I can and try and just like sweat a bit
Mm-hmm.
to lower the cortisol so I can like see a little bit clearer, right? But I feel like so many people, this is how I'm experiencing what I see on Facebook and social and stuff like that. Some people are literally going to a screen and asking that screen, tell me how to feel today. And I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's healthy. Like we get to choose, and I'm a big fan of journaling. This is like my journal. I made this page, and I have like a to-be list. My today's mantra to-be list is like who I want to be today. My to-do list, my gratitude for the day, and then I journal on the back. And I have our notes for today as well, like what I want to go over. But it's so like there is another release putting pencil to paper. I find digital as well, but I've been doing pencil to paper because my past therapists and mentors and stuff like that, like it does feel different going pen to
It does.
paper versus like typing it out. Any journaling I believe is good. It's a good start, but it's a great habit to get into. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about like how you got into branding.
Yeah. So as a small person, I was telling Shaun, so I'll tell all of you. So I essentially, since I was a child, I wanted to have my own business. I have always been very right brain, left brain. So super creative, but I was like, how do I now sell this? Like this makes sense.
Yeah.
And so in third grade, my parents took me out of school. I was homeschooled. At 15, I went to college. And my goal was to get a business
You broke
degree.
up just a little bit, but I wanted to be
Okay.
super clear that they heard that.
So I I went to college at 15 and lived with my parents.
Crazy.
I did not have a typical experience whatsoever. But what I found was that I wanted to help businesses in a creative way. And so for me, I've always expressed myself creatively, but I've wanted that structure. And so I actually had considered interior design, fashion design, and really looked at what I was already doing, which was designing stuff on my little MacBook. And so I have a degree in visual communications and business. And right away, my vision was I would see these artisans, these fashion designers, these handbag makers, these jewelry people, and realizing like they have a beautiful product and their brand is not speaking on their behalf. And so for me, there was so much interest in learning the psychology of fonts, to know color theory, like how does marketing actually work? And I think in creative fields, much like the wedding industry, have really not tapped in and utilized how we can use colors in our brand to attract certain couples that we want to work with. And so that's really where I've dedicated my career, is to helping creative businesses find their visual voice that they can share when they're not there to speak for themselves. And in 2008, I got asked to brand a wedding. And so the stationery business that I have is essentially, we do event branding, which incorporates paper products. But now I get the chance to travel all over. I have a partnership with The Knot. I've been traveling with them for the last 4 years, now Wedding Pro. And I love the opportunity to sit with other event professionals. And usually it's like the smallest tweaks. And I think we're going to touch on brand auditing on this call, but it's so, like, you don't have to have a brand new logo. You can make really small changes that are going to align with the clientele that you want to work with. It's more about being self-aware, determining like the more niche that you can be, the more successful that you're going to be. And like, there is such thing as a brand personalities. Like, obviously we know the Enneagram, but you can have a brand archetype. And it's like, when you identify what fulfills you as a business, and then be able to align your language and your visuals with how you're representing yourself, like, it's gold. It's absolutely gold. You get the inquiries with the ideal people, instead of having to filter through like, how do they make it?
Yeah, I love that. That is so good. I mean, knowing ourselves is gives us the tools that we can like make requests, like, this is how I love to be loved, or this is how I need to communicate. Like for me, I know that sometimes I need to work stuff out loud, and so I'm going to take you for a roller coaster. I'm going to start here, I may end here, and it's going to be crazy, but try and get with me to here. Don't just get hurt here and not hear the rest of it. My wife and I have had to learn a lot of this, but it's so powerful. Same thing with a brand. Like, hey, this is who I am. This is who I am as a company. And it does start to attract ideal clients, right? And so that is a wonderful transition into this. What can we be doing to ensure our passion and craft is being clearly communicated? Now, a big key to this question is the clearly communicated part, because as creatives, sometimes it's hard for everything that's going on up here to be able to clearly come out here. So that's what one of the reasons we take pictures. It's like, this is beautiful. I could tell you things, but it's hard for me to communicate sometimes, or even write. Not a lot of creatives are super powerful writers. It's a craft that we can learn, but it's like, communication is not usually our strongest strength. You know, it's not our strong point. So how can we do that and clearly communicate that?
Yeah. And honestly, the best way is looking at your past clients and creating 1 to 3 personas and writing down everything about them. And what are words that come to mind that express the type of wedding that they wanted or work that you were able to achieve. And once you can kind of funnel in the language for your most ideal clients, then that language helps lay that foundation of communicating about yourself. A way to check in on that is honestly pulling up your phone, or right in this case, texting some friends or acquaintances and say, hey, look at my website. What are 3 words that come to mind? And you'll know very quickly if you're on base or if you're off base. And I think, you know, as photographers, I know specifically, you know, you all look to who you would like to be in your career. And so maybe we're looking at that other person's website and we're looking at the language that they're using. And it's very easy to copy paste a similar language and a similar message. And I think as you build your business, you want to make sure you're not deviating from who you truly are and how you want your work to be described to people, because everyone is an artist and you are expressing, the uniqueness. So once you have those words, though, that's the exciting part, is then you can use those words to align with color. So obviously colors like blue are going to be a little bit more casual and cool, like soothing. If you're going to do, let's say you do a lot of outdoor work and you're an adventure photographer and you're taking people in helicopters, or ideally want to and do some of that stuff, maybe green and burnt orange is the right color for you because it's going to send that adventurous feel. Let's say you're more like high energy and super joyful and you love making your couples laugh, then pursuing a color like yellow or orange in your logo is going to work excellent. So if you're currently using, let's say, a pink, and it may not be translating your personality on your behalf, if that makes sense. So really zoning into ideal couple, what are words to describe their wedding, using that language for your own business, and then finding your color and finding your route and path from that foundation.
Cool. I love that. It is like, it's pretty amazing how much psychology goes into the brand, how much our brain translates specific things to specific feelings. I've done some cool stuff with like brand, like I shared this with you before, but like when we rebranded, I'm like, I know what I want. I want to like it, but I know I'm not necessarily the ideal target market. And so when it was like presented to me, I was like, I want to like it enough because I love travel. I'm always out doing education and stuff like that. I'm representing the brand a lot of times. And it was amazing the amount of psychology that went into it. And I've been studying a lot of just psychology in general, but it's powerful stuff. Like, and it translates so well. Like we are humans over and over again.
Yeah, so
we do things the same way.
Color is 90% of snap judgments on a brand is based on just color. So having the wrong color can really go a very long way. And I've spoke to DJs or they use graffiti font and they want red and black. And if you are a polished MC and want to be treated like a professional and you want to be more of the MC than the DJ, then red and black and graffiti is really not doing you any favors. Being that confidence in the blue and having a polished font that represents how you want to be perceived is going to, get you the business that you really want.
Yeah, that's cool. Michelle said, I love that. I have always been so drawn to yellow and joyful, laughter-filled photos. It's totally our jam. We love playful, goofy couples. I have been afraid to use it, and I even polled my audience once, and it overwhelmingly came back yellow. That's so interesting.
And it may not be, like you said, it may not be your favorite color personally, but I think to understand how you can align with something visual is really what matters.
Yeah, that's where it's at. It's like, who do you want to be as a brand, and who do you want your client to be and to look like? It's like feedback is something you referred to multiple times, but I think it's totally needed. It's hard. Like my personality type, all these things that I've studied that have told me I don't do well with feedback. It doesn't mean I can't strengthen it though. They say in Myers-Briggs, it's like a right hand and a left hand. And it's a feeler thinker. That's where the feedback comes in. I'm a feeler, where most males, 70% of males are thinkers. And that's the only one that's actually the same exact, but flopped for women. The rest of them are all over the place. But as a feeler, I tend to take it personally even if I ask for feedback. All I really, in a healthy way, I'd be like, tell me everything you like about this is what I should have said. But what I was saying is like, give me your feedback. And then when they would like take shots at it, I personally took it, where a thinker's like, great, thank you for giving me that. I'm going to go work on those things, And I was like, I totally need to learn that. But it's like a right hand, left hand. So my left hand was the thinker, and I've strengthened it to where it's like, I need feedback. I know I do, just like we all do. So,
and I think you have to be really cautious with feedback, especially if you are doing, let's say, website changes or a logo change, which we're all going to be working on, I feel like, in the near future. And the main reason is that, there's a lot of context behind the scenes. And so you get a lot of personal preferences that end up being communicated. And so the best way that I like to advise navigating that is if your ideal client is a nurse, then who in your circles that are nurses that fit the demographic of the type of clients that you want, that's the type of person that you want to bring into that circle to give that feedback. Otherwise, you do have a lot of people who are like, well, their favorite color is black and white, so they think you would look best in black and white. And so you really have to, I guess, be sensitive to that feedback of being like, take what matters. Maybe they have some great suggestions, but it is important that you're getting input from people that are more in line with what your target goals are.
Yeah, like solid feedback or healthy feedback, it's like a brand is one of those things that it can absolutely, and we see it a ton, like you said, in the photography world, it's a lot of like, we can copy and paste it because we like what that looks like, but if we wanted to translate into our deal clients, I think it's a different ball game, like understanding the psychology behind it is a huge thing. And I think bringing in a specialist to do that, when you can afford it, there's a lot of resources out there, and you've even given us a couple resources that we are going to share of like, do a self audit and look at it. And then if you want to take a deeper dive, there is a way, and we will get to that later, to hire a specialist like Kaleigh. But this is so fun. I think this is like, we're doing it in a way that I think the creatives will be able to hear it. It's like, I have a couple attorneys and like a CPA lined up for all the stuff that's going on. And it's like, I'm going to be bored on the call, and I'm like, we have to do this in a way because the information is so good. This one, I was like a little concerned about, but this is a blast. You do a wonderful job at this. So thanks for doing it the way that you do. You totally do have that right brain, left brain, like in a good way. You have the business side. I can see it, but it's also like, wow, her creativity, it definitely shines through as well. So thank you for that. Yeah. So what is one thing, or how can we polish our brands like right now? What is something we can do to polish?
So a few quick takeaways would honestly be, go through your website and make sure all the links are working. Think of it, when I'm doing brand audits for people, I'm always shocked. I click on a link and it goes to a dead end. So think about, especially as photographers, if you're getting published on blogs or other websites, make sure that that's still talking, because just having that dead end just makes you look less polished and less elevated. So checking that right away, and then checking that first impression. When you land on your website, is that one image evoking the type of work that you want to do? So make sure that you're putting your best work out there. Next thing would be email signature. So your email signature is one of the first follow-up things that they see that is usually not aligned with your brand. So as simple as having the colors of your brand incorporated into your email signature, the same similar style of fonts. It takes someone 5 to 7 times to see your brand to create that brand trust. And so if you're not appearing consistent through all of your platforms and email correspondence, you may miss an opportunity to build that brand trust. And then another thing would be looking at your social, looking at your website side by side. Do you look like the same business? I highly recommend, because of that 5 to 7 times, your hero image that you're using on your website should be that Facebook header and should be primary used somewhere on your social that they can get to quickly. Because what happens is they're referencing, oh, I know it was a couple, it was long distance, there was green grass. That's how they're going to describe what they saw when they go to try to find your website again. And so make it really easy for them to have those, 5 to 10 images that are kind of memory stamped for them. And then the tools that I will provide to you is like, really just do a check-in. Make sure that the inquiries that you're getting are the ones that you want. Make sure, check in, are you using the right colors? And if so, maybe it's just that little tweak that you need to make that could really make the difference for you. And then make sure that you have a headshot and a bio on your website. As a photographer, you spend all day with these couples, and I'm always shocked when I go to a photographer's website and I have no idea what they look like, how they present, or anything about them. I want to feel connected to them. And so that's something that you just want to make sure is polished, and that it's sending a message that's not just, I love, but tells a little bit more about why you do what you do, what fulfills you. And that's a great way to connect with millennial and Gen Z couples. And then lastly, this is kind of the 5 takeaways. I've been doing a lot of research about what couples for 2021 are looking for, and it's 5 things on our website. So it's going to be recognition. So if you do have any press or alignment with any brands, or you have a Knot or Wedding Wire profile, make sure that you're showing and saying that. Reviews are huge. Your brand is what other people say it is. And so sprinkle those reviews all over, and maybe have a review page. You can also use reviews as captions on social, which is a great way to just fill that language. You also want to share what locations you work. I think when they're landing on a web page, you know, if you serve everywhere, maybe it doesn't need to be as prominent, but if you're only doing Southern California or the Midwest, be upfront about the areas that you serve, and then feel welcoming. They want to feel like they're being asked to reach out for availability. And so, you know, make sure you're sending those prompts to say, we would love to hear more about your wedding. Here's a place to contact us, or, you know, reach out for a text us for this. Make sure you're asking for that connection. And then lastly, listing your services. So most people are price shopping, as we know. You don't necessarily have to show your pricing on your website, but they are looking for a way to see what are the packages. Do you do full weekends? Do you do day of? What are the services that you offer, which will make that first initial touch point that much more successful.
Yeah. Man, that is a ton of amazing stuff right there. And
things.
as you were doing it, I was literally like, wonder how my email looks. And I wonder if we have reviews, you know, like I'm on our site a lot, but I'm typically like looking up clients, helping them, things like that. And so I'm like, I go straight to the back of all of our information of photographers and stuff like that. But it's been interesting. We're launching a mastermind on like how to serve your clients right now, like during this time where you can't take pictures. And I'm going through kind of like the final, I mean, it flooded. I'm grateful. There's tons of people applying, and I'm trying to get to like finalists, because we're only going to do 10 in a mastermind, like a 4-week mastermind, and really deep dive with these photographers. But I check their social, I check the website, and don't be afraid to apply if you see this, because I maybe I'm judging it. To be honest, I'm judging it a little bit, but I'm also like, this is gold. So I'm instantly like, I'm gonna just straight up ask you, Kaleigh. I've sent you emails and stuff like that. Please, Lord, just tell me I've done it right. But like, is there anything that you saw that like you're like, yep, you're doing it wrong, Shaun? Or like, I'm basically asking for feedback, not free solicited advice. You don't want to go there, but
I know I
was like,
to
did
look at
anything
your
stand
email.
out?
Yeah, I mean, right away, looking at the email from you, so your font style on your email signature is different than the KISS logo. So that would be a really easy change. And even the brand of having the lowercase KISS, it would be awesome to have the lowercase KISS in your emails. And right now it's in caps. And then I think incorporating your kind of goldish tone somewhere in your email signature would really make it a lot more prominent. And if you don't know how to do that, you really just make your email signature in your email and then format it how you want, and then copy it and paste it into the back end. So it's it will take you 10 minutes and probably to tweak this one 5 minutes, but it's amazing how, like right now in your current email signature, I don't have an impression of your brand at all. It's very too generic, if that makes sense. Whereas this is an impressionable moment to use color for that snap judgment, and also to have that follow up when you've sent an email, you know, as a photographer, you know, they've sent 10 inquiries and they're getting emails back to remember who exactly you are, refreshing them with that memorable color and that typeset once more.
That's cool. Thanks for that feedback. I appreciate it. I wrote it down. I'm going to definitely fix that. Yeah,
it's a simple fix.
It's easy fixes. Those are the things, you know, it's like, we do have some time, you know, I feel busier than I've ever been doing a lot of these calls and stuff like that, really trying to show up, but I have time, you know, and I can make time, and I believe the brand should be such a priority. Like I was saying, so many photographers, when we were educating, for a long time, we didn't do like styled shoots, and it was hard to get people in the seats. And I feel like we were like, here's the keys to a successful business. We were photographers. There was 3 or 4 of us that would show up as like successful photographers that now had other things that we were doing. And it was like the styled shoot, it was like, there's a line out the door. And I totally believe in like refining your craft. But this type of stuff is like getting people in the door, like that consistency. You said the hero shot, the color that you're using on your signatures and stuff like that. You are one of however many they're looking at photographers, and they're shopping before they get to what I believe is irreplaceable, is your personality. But if they don't get to that, you can't even show the separation other than, how can I stand out as a brand? Here's the colors that I'm going to use. I am a fun, adventurous photographer that loves to shoot in Yosemite and the Sierras, or something like that. You know, like having those specifics. Someone that wants like light and airy in like Newport Beach may not hire me, and that's okay, you know. But if that's what I want to do, is adventure photography in Yosemite, it's like, a person that's getting married in Yosemite or in the mountains or something like that, they're like, I've found my photographer.
And
Now they
they're
get to
perfect.
reach out. Yeah.
Yes,
Tell us a little
exactly.
bit about that. What, like, just give us like a scenario where it's like, this is what you see in our industry as like vagueness. And then here is like, you don't have to use like specific names or anything like that, but
Yeah.
I've seen a brand and this is what worked really well.
Yeah, exactly. So I know I saw in the comments, they were concerned about yellow not looking high end, although they identified with that
Yeah.
color. And there's a couple different ways you can manipulate that in terms of making sure that you're pairing enough white space, in the way that you're using a font that is more elevated, so you can kind of balance and play with that casual approachability, but also a higher end price point. So it definitely is playing with multiple factors, and also using language that's a little bit more elevated is going to automatically put you in a way that's communicating with a client that speaks in a very specific way. But one of the things you have to think about, with your own brand is, a couple is shopping and they're opening 5 to 10 photographer tabs. So if you even, I'm not an advocate for really playing the comparison game with your competitors, but if you think about yourself, if you're one of the tabs open and you're looking, what's going to be memorable? What is going to catch their eye right away? How are they feeling there's a human behind the screen? And so when you start thinking about things as with a little bit more depth and uniqueness instead of what's working for them, obviously is great. So if I do that, then maybe it'll work for me. It's really finding your individuality is the best way. So there's not a right or wrong. It's more of, I feel really excited when I'm doing a brand audit and someone has told me about their service and they're telling people on their website and through their captions on their social. And so I think leaning in and not having, I deal with imposter syndrome too, but it's like, what really are you great at? And maybe you need to ask your close friends, like, where do I really shine? Or ask your past clients, where do I really shine? And using that language to speak about yourself, so that you are a standout. And like you said, it aligns perfect with the ideal person who's looking for someone like you.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Again, feedback, we keep coming back to feedback. It is so powerful. Ego comes in when I ask for feedback. There's a lot of things that sit right here, but being aware of it and setting those aside and being like, this is knowing that person is for me, especially if it's a past client that I've served, somebody that we know. My wife does transformational coaching, and she has her clients text their friends and say like, what is the gift of me? Like, if I lost all functionality today and all I had was my words, like how do I show up in your life? And what is the gift of me? I get the chills thinking about it. But we can do this with our brands as well, because that is what we ultimately are like showing up as, is like, yeah, we are a service. We take pictures, but the experience is so much more than that. And there's a way to start to identify that as a differentiator. I love having 10 tabs open. It like, I would just love to see a bride pick a photographer or pick a DJ or pick whatever, because that's what happens. Like, and I have all these tabs open on this right here even, and I'm like, I'm kind of curious, what I'm comparing and stuff like that, or shopping for at times. It's such a great thought though, is like, if you're one of those tabs, do 8 of them look the same? Do 5 of them look the same? Because it's so easy. There's like definitely brands that we are attracted to, but there's ways to differentiate ourselves. So during this time, what do we do, and like, how do we show up in a way that it's like, or should we have our personal and our business brands be different? For me personally, I have my in my Instagram that's personal, and I have a little more freedom there, although I represent Kiss still. But when I'm on Kiss, it's still me, but it's like business. This one I do talk about like some of the woo-woo stuff and the things I'm trying to do with self-care and things like that. And I speak freely over here, where over at Kiss, it's like a little more business minded. I still speak that stuff. But like, what do you think about separating it? And for a photographer specifically, that's who we serve. As a photographer, does it make sense to separate the personal and the business, on social, on your brand?
And I definitely think, like we talked at the beginning, our brands can become our identity so much that we can't separate ourselves, but we do need to realize that we do have 2 separate brands. What are we communicating over here that is true to us and what is true to our brand. Or let's say maybe your clients aren't you. Your ideal client is a more luxury person that you can't really relate to. So you have to think about it very separately. You know, for the business accounts, in my opinion, on like an Instagram platform, you know, that is your online little portfolio. I think it's like 78% of couples look at your Instagram before they do that first inquiry. And so you do have to think of it as a very professional platform. And so I do recommend keeping the feed very professional with, you know, your actual, like your best images. How can you show your best work? But I think it is fun for them to feel connected and that there's a human behind the brand. And so utilizing stories in that way. I don't think it's okay to create more drama or create more stress as a business account. I don't think that's the place. I think we need to identify that, yes, this is happening in the world. I mean, I know personally my heart is breaking for my couples. I mean, that is something that we all are having to walk with them through, you know, the planning process of, you know, 6 to 12 months that we've been planning and working with them. So we have to identify that. And I think as a business, we need to be seen as leaders. So even though we don't have the answers, how can you be a leader as a business? You know, your brand, when all of this goes away, what you're doing today is still going to be a reflection of your brand. And so you really do have to think about how can you have a strength and a confidence and an education that's adding value to our community. On the personal side, you know, I do think you know, having an account that maybe clients have access to after the wedding, things like that. But definitely, you know, maybe that's more of a platform where you can connect human to human, share your concerns, show more of that, like I'm at home and it's my 4th day drinking straight, you know, whatever you're expressing. That's probably more of that separate place. And, you know, all of us share at different levels in terms of vulnerability and what we're comfortable with. But I think it is really important to remember that the business page themselves, after this is gone, that brand will still remain, and whatever you put online now will still remain online, just somewhere in the universe. And so really thinking about being a pillar as a business and then as a personal person, you know, I think it is important that we have an outlet that's sharing. Maybe you like to bike ride, you know, maybe you like to take Epsom salt baths, maybe you really like to read and want to add value to your human to human outside of the industry and can share what you're reading. So I think it really depends on, you know, your personal, how much you want to share, but I definitely would advocate for keeping the business a place of, you know, substance. And I know a lot of people are having a hard time, like, should I post? Is it appropriate to post? And actually one of the great ideas that a friend of mine had was he wrote down a list of all the things that are meaningful in his life. And some of those happen to be things that are being taken away: hugs, relationships, you know, connection. And what he's doing is posting photos that are essentially, he'll choose his word and he's choosing a photo that embodies what that is and talking a little bit about what it means for him to not have that in his life at this time. And I think that's a wonderful way of continuing to show images of such high emotion and be able to show with you as the creative artist where your heart is in the work that you do.
It's really powerful. It's hard to know what to do, you know, because we haven't been through something like this.
Ever.
Ever. And
the thing is, it's like, there's nothing else I can think of that affects every single person on the earth. Like, we are all in it together. And I think that you have to come from a place of, you know, sharing and being open is telling your portion of the story, but everyone is also dealing with their own portion of the story. Right. And so approaching it in a way like, no, you know, a lot of people are dealing with some pretty heavy stuff right now. And we can't also play the comparison game of who has it worse or who has it better right now. And so just being authentically ourselves and sharing our own portion of our story is, I think, the best thing we can do.
Yeah, I love that. I was on my bike this morning and I was with a friend on Peloton. You can like take a class at the same time, type of a thing. And the instructor said, are you breathless right now? Or are you basic? Meaning like, are you actually showing up or are you not? And I was like, that is so powerful. And this was a past class from like before any of this was happening, you know? So the room was full, you know, in the video and stuff like that. And I was like, that is like, when you said we need leaders, I believe that everyone's called to be a leader.
I agree.
I said that one time, and my mom was in the room, and she said, well, what does that mean? I've heard you say that before. but then like who will follow? And I was like, that's a good question. But the way that leadership works is like, I believe I'm a leader. I believe you're a leader. And we both look to people that have gone before us that will guide us, will continue to guide us. There's leaders in my life that I look to. And then there's leaders that I want to be shoulder to shoulder with that can like help me, sharpen me, know what I'm in. And then there are people that we lead. But everybody is in a situation where you can have that dynamic of the three things. You're looking to leaders to pour into you. You're looking for people that do it shoulder to shoulder with you. And then you're looking to pour into other people. And when you said leadership, I think that is like such a powerful thing right now. I think our colleagues are looking to us, our friends, our family, if we have kids, the world, if you're going online, is looking to us like as leaders, like, how do I show up today? How do I do this? You know? And this has been a gift because this is a time where it's like, I'm going to get back to, and even some of the comments of like those applications I was talking about, it says website and it says, I'm working on it. Like, I don't want you to see it, you know? And I'm sure you see that all the time. Like, I'm working on it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, if you have time right now, or even if you don't, I think this would be a great priority. But if you have extra time, take a look at it. Like, your brand can always, I love like taking time to look at it because it can always be refined. Like, there's always little things. Like when you said check the links, I was like, when was the last time somebody checked the links? Forgets, you know, like we live.
It's very common to have dead ones.
I'm
for
sure it is, you know.
But I think, you know, you can't be overwhelmed with, I mean, of course, our lists are all very long, but I think really tackling, like, changing your email is going to take you 5 minutes. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do that sooner? And really giving yourself maybe one development goal a day, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe one day it's just cleaning up your Instagram and taking off some of the old stuff that doesn't represent what you do anymore. You know, how can you work in your business every day? But I also think that we all, on a personal level, need to give ourselves grace. And when we're feeling sorry for ourselves right now and we're feeling down, allowing ourselves to really be in that moment, accept it, and even if we need to visually, you know, grab it and move it forward and get it, push it out so that we can continue to move on, because we all do have to identify we all are hurting in different ways. You know, that it's okay if you're not, also now's not the right time and you want to schedule something for 2 weeks from now when you feel that you're mentally in a better place.
Yeah, that's solid advice for sure. It's okay, like, to have days where we're overwhelmed. It's okay to feel fear right now. It's okay to like feel the feelings, to cry, you know, or whatever. It's how we're going to like get up, dust ourselves off, and show up again. And it's like, who do I want to be today? Or maybe I failed at who I wanted to be today. We get another chance tomorrow. And I love just thinking about the concept of like, there are all kinds of things going on with like reschedules and like we're looking at like, where are we going to be in 2 months from now? But it's also a gift to be able to just be here today and be like, how do I look today? And how does my brand look today? You know, and there'll be wins in there. I love checking off things off a to-do list. You know, I'm the type of person that's like, I'll write it down even if I've already done it, because I want to check it off. You know, like I accomplished something, you know, I forgot to write that thing down or whatever. But we have a couple of tools that you gave us, and I looked through them. Of course, they look amazing, as they should, I think. So thank you for those. We're going to share those with you in the comments here, as well as just tell us a little bit about those. And then why don't you also tell us, like, if they want to take the next step, potentially even with you, what would that look like? I loved hearing that from you, and I want to encourage you, because I was like, what would it be like? And when you said even the price, I was like, that's amazing. I'll bet it would just like take huge steps for that type of investment. Would be totally great. So here, what are the couple of free tools, and then how can they work with you?
Yeah, so the two tools are two of my actual favorite things to give out because, again, it's stuff you can do right away. So the first one is going to be a basic color theory guide. So it actually goes through the primary colors, talks about what they mean. So right away, you can pull up your logo and your other marketing materials, and you can look at my sheet and be like, okay, that's a myth, or I'm on it. And maybe you find another color that you want to start using as an accent color. So that PDF actually shows you how to build that brand color story. And then the other one is actually 5 ways to do a self-brand audit. So this is what means when you sit down and you pour yourself a glass of wine or you have a coffee and you go through and you're checking those links. This kind of gives you a step-by-step guide of how to do that. It's also going to give you a couple more tips as to what I call a stranger audit, similar to we talked about if your ideal client is a nurse. How can you do an audit with maybe a friend of yours that's a nurse, that they can give you that feedback to make sure you're on point for those people. And then for my services, so one of my favorite things to do is actually hear the stories of creatives. And so I have a pretty extensive assessment form that really goes deep about why you do what you do, what makes you sleep at night, what's your favorite colors and shapes. And it gives me a lot of information to brain dump. And then I can use all of my creative knowledge and psychology and theory in order to customize something specifically for you to say, okay, here's my suggestions. If these are your goals, this is how I think you should incorporate these new things into your brand. And then we spend an hour together on the phone going through every single touch point for a potential client. And I'm going to show you what you're missing on your website. I'm going to be honest about what kind of mood it's evoking or vibe. And then I'm going to give you tips on how to use your website better, your social platforms better, so that you can reach those business goals with marketing techniques and brand stuff. So it's fun.
That is awesome. Yeah, as I was flipping through it, I was like, this is gold. I mean, it is just easy next steps. It's like, as you create your to-do list tomorrow, grab one of those things and take a look. Give yourself that assessment. Give yourself that time. Like, one of my favorite sayings is like, are you working on your business or for your business? And this is one of those things that you're working on your business so that it does the work for you. You mentioned like people are going to look at your social, at your brand, at your website, in lots of different places before they even get to you. And so when you're up against that, if you've done the work, you get to represent the brand that you want to, as well as like weed out some of the people that you're not going to waste their time. They're not going to waste your time, because you start to get towards those ideal clients. My friend calls them dreamies. And I love that because it's like, if you dreamt up your perfect client, what would they look like? And where would they shop? And those types of things. And this is a great strategy of like, this will help them find you easier and you find them ultimately. That's the goal. So do you do brand audits? Melissa said.
Yeah, so that would be my professional audit. And so that's where you do the assessment form. And then we spend that one-on-one time really customizing kind of what techniques and tools I can help you with to get you to that next step and what your goals are for who you want to reach. We didn't have time today to really talk about it, but there's actually 2 ways of branding. There's a way to brand for your BFF, where you're really able to show your own personality and create that emotional connection.
That's cool.
But in my case with Mel Dean, our clients are spending $40,000 on their stationery. I would never be able to afford that. They dress differently than me. They talk differently than me. And that's a whole nother segment. And so I think, especially as a photographer, you get to that pivoting point where you've been charging this and to get where you want to be is that transition. And so what happens is then you need to start working on planner relationships. You need to start working on figuring out who exactly is this person that's going to pay X, Y, and Z. And then we kind of work backwards for figuring out what we need to change on your website to get you at that more elevated point.
That's cool. This made me laugh. Someone said, what makes me sleep at night lately is definitely a heavy dose of CBD and wine. But having a more elevated brand that truly represents what I want it to would make me sleep better even more. This has been so valuable. I can't wait to go through these resources and start implementing these self-audits. And someone else said, which I put up here, I need you. And it's so true. This is a gift. Thank you so much for doing this. I I want to elevate the industry as a whole. Like there's so many things that we can do, and the starving artist is a saying for a reason. And I want to change it. Like I'm in, and I want to change it. And it's friends like you that could come alongside and just help support this community in a way that makes us like more professional, us more. The way that we put it was like to clearly communicate our brand. It could be such a gift because I read Essentialism every year, and it says you can plan your life, or someone or something else will plan it for you. And having a clearly communicated brand versus one that is just like a copy and paste of somebody else. It really, somebody else is planning that life for you, that business for you, because they're reaching out when they're not your ideal client. I get it. Sometimes an ideal client is one that's going to pay you. And that should be for a season only. There's a time to hustle. There's a time to shoot anything and everything, but there is a time when it's like, it's time for me to become a professional business and create a brand that is clearly communicating what my company really is, and it will start to find ideal clients. And that's what I love about brands. There's so many like big brands out there that we look to, but they have became household items, like in household sayings, like Coke. Can you have me a Coke? What I mean is like, I just want a soda, and tissue. And there's so many like different brands out there that have like done this at an amazing level. And I think in the photography world, it would be a beautiful thing for us to just get to a point where it's like, I know what that person does, and they don't just take pictures. They are, and then fill in the blank. Like what is that next word in that sentence? What do you want it to be when they think of your brand? Kaleigh can help you do that. Like I said, when she told me like some of the audits and things like that, the feedback that she'd be willing to give you, it's at a rate that I think is very, very valuable. I want to talk her into raising that price, but she knows what she's doing as well. But she is a powerhouse, and I'm so grateful that you're with us today. So let's just thank her. Where can we find you? Looking at this.
So you can find me on my website. It's probably the best way because then you can find my social, and it's going to be my first and last name. So Kaleigh, Kaleigh, and then Wiese, Wiese.com. And then my stationery business is called Meldine. And then the brand work and education is labeled by Meldine.
Awesome. You are an absolute gift. Thank you so much for just being here with us and supporting us in this way, and just loving on photographers the way that you do. I know our paths are going to cross again if we ever get to travel again. I miss my suitcase.
Me too.
I miss like seeing people in person and hugs and things like that. So someone just said, thank you. My wheels are turning for sure. Excited to go through the resources. Again, check out those resources. Go find her. And when you're ready to take the next step, she would just be amazing.
I am here. Yes. And I think for me, when I'm able to travel and educate, I feel a piece of me missing right now, that I'm not getting those connections. Yeah. So please feel free to reach out. I would love to start that story, and have that conversation with many of the KISS community.
Yeah, we'd love that. Tonight, we're getting together with another couple that we usually double date, and we're just like Zoom and having wine and stuff, like we miss that in-person stuff. I miss travel. I was like, usually my suitcase is like right where I can see it, because I'm going to be going out of town again next week. It's just not right now. And I miss it as well, because I miss that connection more than anything. And I'm fine educating like this, but I'm the type of person that like, I love being on stage, but even more than that, I love being in like breakouts and like seeing people, the lights come on. And with this, I can't see that as much. I can see it in the comments, but I know like you got the wheels turning, a lot of lights are coming on, and just like, so there's some easy, like simple to-dos. And then when you're willing to dive deeper, she'd be great to work with. And she's at home, not traveling right now. So take advantage of it and get her while you can. So thank you so much for being on here. We're going to share that information, and there's links already going in there to find you. But this has been a treat. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
I'm so happy I have had the opportunity.
Yes, this is wonderful. Thanks so much for logging on. Feel free to continue to put these comments. This will stay, and this is a private group for professional photographers. We do make sure to protect that. So feel free to ask anything, and we will jump in and answer it. And Kaleigh has access to this as well. Reach out to her directly and find her with any questions as well. She is just a wealth of knowledge. Take care of yourself, really. There is a light in each one of us, and there are people in your lives that I won't be able to reach, and Kaleigh won't be able to reach, that really need you to show up. And let's just set a target of like, who do we want to be on the other side of this, and are the things that we are choosing to do taking us towards that or away from that? If it's away from that, give yourself grace, get up, dust yourself off, and give it another go. But I just want to encourage you, there are so many things that can impact us. But if we are choosing who we want to be, and that is our target, we just become a little bit more prone to heading in that direction. There's a path out there for you, and we need these creatives in our life. We need you to show up for us and for your clients. So take care of yourself, stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks so much for logging in. We'll talk soon.